to learn the various processes used. Soil mass. This soil needs to be softened and loosened. Why does soil roots of the plants? This will in turn aid the growth of the plant, leading to good crop production. Do you know any gnats? The answer is earthworms. They help loosen the soil and also in soil aeration. Do you know another advantage of loosening of the soil? What exactly is humus? As we know, all living things die, their remains are decomposed and nutrients are returned back to the soil. It is what plants depend on for nutrients. We call it tilling or ploughing in agriculture. Yes, I'm sure you have. No, it won't be. Hence, the soil may have to be watered before ploughing. Soil tilling or ploughing the land. There are mainly 3 types of equipments used in the first stage of agriculture. A plough, hoe and a cultivator are the 3 major ones. Do you know how any of these work or how they look? Don't worry in case you haven't. We will study each of them in detail in our next video.
I borrowed 30,000 rupees and repaid 225 rupees each month.
Do you know the things that constitute insects, pests, and what else? Weeds. That's right. Weeds are harmful plants that grow alongside the crops. Why are weeds considered to be a threat? It's because these plants too have roots which take up the nutrients from the soil and they compete for sunlight and water. This could seriously damage the crops, leaving them with little or no nutrients at all. So, how do farmers get rid of these plants? Farmers usually remove all weeds in the initial stage of almost all weeds are uprooted and their remains serve as humus to the soil. However, if these weeds grow after the crop is sown, they need to be removed manually. This can be done with bare hands or with medicines which kill these plants. Wait, what do I mean by medicines? Won't these medicines damage the crop? Well, these are known as weedicides and are designed to only kill weeds. These chemicals are diluted using water and then spread over the farms. Farmers also use implements like a khurpi or a seed drill to uproot weeds. Now tell me, can weeds be removed anytime? Or should we destroy them before a particular time? Yes, weeds should be uprooted before they produce flowers and seeds. Weedicides too should be sprayed before they flower. But extreme caution must be maintained while spraying these chemicals. Can you guess why? Well, these chemicals can prove harmful even to the farmers. And that is why you see farmers covering their nose and mouths with a piece of cloth while spraying these chemicals. Now that you've studied about crop protection against weeds, let us study the second last stage of crop production. The stage where the crop has matured after a span of 3 to 4 months. It's the harvest time. And what does it exactly mean? Harvest the crop simply means to cut the crop after it has matured. Do you think it's as easy as it sounds? Of course not. Harvesting of crops, if done manually, is done with a sickle. If a machine is used to harvest crops, it is usually the harvester. Crops are either pulled out or cut close to the ground. Once the crop is harvested, it needs to be threshed. What do I mean by threshed? The grains need to be separated from the stalks. Threshing is the next step after harvesting and is carried out manually. However, even machines called threshers are employed for this nowadays. In certain cases, farmers use a combination of harvester and thresher, a machine called combine. The machinery can carry out the process of harvesting and threshing together. Threshing is usually the beating of stalks on a surface that separates the grains from the stalks. Now the grains have yet another covering before they can be finally stored. That is the chaff. Chaff is then separated by a process called winnowing. In this process, small farmers manually separate the chaff from grains with the help of the wind. Grains are dropped down from a height and the wind carries away the chaff while the grains, being heavier, get collected into a heap. So, with the three processes of harvesting, threshing, and winnowing, grains are now ready for storage. Do you think storage of grains involves a lot of work? We will soon find that out in our next video.
Start with a 50% deposit bonus. Increase your investing power with Pocket Broker.
Why do plants need water? The same reasons for which humans need water. Water constitutes a major part of the plant body. This water helps plants to transport the nutrients in their body and is quite important for the growth of the plant. How do plants get their water? The roots help the plant absorb the water from the soil. It indicates that moist soil would mean a continuous supply of water to plants. Do you know that the plants need water right from their germination? Have you heard people say that the seeds will wither away if there is no water? After sowing, seeds need water to germinate, and that's precisely why farmers sow seeds before the rains. But what if there are no rains? How do plants then get water? Irrigation is the solution to this problem. The supply of water to crops at specific intervals is that plants need water more than anything else. Water acts as a shield against the extremities of nature like frost or hot currents. No doubt, water is of foremost importance to the crop. That is why we will study irrigation as a process of production. Do you know what irrigation depends on? Can you guess? Yes, it depends on the soil type. And what, according to you, will the frequency? During summer, soil is devoid of moisture, why we need to irrigate the fields frequently during the summer months. During the monsoons, there is a little need for irrigation. Now let us look at the sources of irrigation. What are the sources of irrigation? Ponds, wells, lakes, dams, rivers are various water bodies that help supply water for irrigation. However, the methods of irrigation have changed over the years. In irrigation, water is lifted from water bodies and then carried to the fields. In the traditional method, who do you think does the work of lifting the water? It's the cattle or humans who lift water from these sources. These methods were inexpensive for the farmers, but were not quite efficient. Let us take a quick look at a few traditional methods of irrigation first. We will look at the moat or pulley system, a chain pump, dhekli, and rahat, which is a lever system. The first system is where water is pulled out of water source with the help of a pulley. The pulley can be moved in several ways to then carry the bucket of water to different places in the field. But this kind of irrigation requires human labor. There is also another problem of uneven distribution of water. Thus, this type of irrigation is less efficient. What about the next type? A chain pump? This is an interesting method. A bucket is tied to a wheel and this wheel is pulled by a chain. This wheel is placed above a water body. The wheel, when it turns, lets water to be collected inside the bucket. This bucket then pours the water out when it comes onto the top. Water then flows into the field in the man-made canal-like system. Here as well, human labor may be required to pull the chain. What about the dhekli? This system of irrigation requires two people or a load needs to be kept attached to the log. Which log? Can you see that V-shaped log is fixed to the ground in an erect manner? Now there is another. This log has a bucket attached to one end. When the log is moved, it helps lower the bucket and get a bucket full of water from the well. This water is then dropped into a narrow canal-like system that waters the fields. This method leads to wastage of water. Now what about the last system? The rahat system? This is a 1,300-year-old method of irrigation which now is almost extinct. This one requires two wheels. One wheel is attached with several buckets all around its circumference and is placed halfway inside the water body. The other is placed on the ground with a rod attached to it. This rod is placed horizontally. It can be made to move in a circle. Usually, cattle are made to operate the system. Humans do it at times too. When the rod is moved in a circular manner, it rotates the two wheels in turn. The wheel, which is inside the water body, collects water into the buckets and deposits it onto the surface. Canal-like systems then carry the water to different parts of the field.